Hey, good morning, everyone. It is probably about 9:30 in the morning. It's spring, but it is pretty darn toasty out already. And when working on this blackweed mat, it is even warmer. But what I'm doing this morning is I have pulled all of the staples up to separate the rows, and I'm going to be lifting this up so that we can amend it with compost, check the drip tape lines, and then getting it recovered. So I'm just going to put you on a time lapse while I get that done, and then we'll take a look at what it looks like underneath the weed mat. Okay, I have about 5 rows of the weed mat pulled up. I had to stop because I have a cattle panel trellis. I'll show you if you can see it down there in one of the rows, and I need to get that pulled out, and some of the stalks because it really hangs up on the holes when I try to pull it. But I just wanted to show you underneath we have drip tape, and depending on what size of holes were burnt into the plastic depends on how many drip lines I do. The more multiples of holes, of course, the more drip lines I lay. And I have to hook these up. These are only supposed to be good for 1 year, which I find really wasteful. So I just like to check them each year. Any that have any issues, I'll replace that line, and any that are still working fine, I'll just reuse them. Sometimes I do have problems in the middle of the season, and we literally take the new drip line, tie it to the end of the old drip line after we unhook it, and then pull it through underneath the fabric, and that seems to work all right. It's not as easy when you have plants in there, but it does work. So I just kind of wanted to show you, even though in a different video when I started working on this field I had weeded in between the holes, you can see that the weeds just continue to germinate. And that is the reason why I actually love weed mat for this particular section of growing field, because I do a lot of intense square foot planting in here. And if I didn't have this in here, it literally would look like that. No joke. It would be horrendous. And I have had the same weed mat down for about 4 years, I believe. Could be even going on 5, and it's still in really decent shape. I leave it down all year long, again, just to keep the weeds at bay. Pull it up every spring, amend it with compost and organic fertilizer, and then lay it back down. And it is a lot of work, but it's well worth it for preventing all the weeds. Okay, I'm just going to give you a brief description of what I'm going to do here. I'm bringing some compost in with the wheelbarrow, and it's the only way I can get it in here because it's all fenced off. Even if I could use the big tractor with the bucket, I don't want to smash the soft dirt in the rows that I've had established for so many years. So I'll just kind of show you a little bit what I'm doing. I won't bore you with the whole garden, and then I will come back and show you at the very end. So I'm probably putting my compost down about a 1/2 inch thick. Probably could do a little bit more than that, but cost-wise, with as big as my field is, I've had great success with the 1/2 inch. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, we came back up to the garden shed because I need to get my fertilizer. And for this, I don't want to make a whole lot of noise, but it is just a Nutri-Rich, and it's a 432 NPK. And I am just going to get some scooped into my little bucket down here, because we are going to broadcast this across all of the rows so that when I put the compost down and then we kind of get it worked in, it'll be all set in there for the plants. It's kind of dusty, huh? And this bag is just too heavy. I can't pour it right now, so that's what I'm working on, and then we'll go get it down in the field. All right, I officially have 3 rows done. This third row over here, it's a little short on the end there because when we originally laid the weed mat down, we were short a piece. And so that's kind of compacted down there. So I don't know if I'm just going to put compost over it or if I'm going to try to work it a little bit before I do compost. But as you can see, and the hard part, some of these go all the way down to this end of the field. But the hardest part was that the wheelbarrow was really clunky in here because this is the first year I've tried to amend it with the fence being up, and it is incredibly difficult. So I am doing everything by basically like by buckets. I load up about 5 buckets, put them in the wheelbarrow, bring it over to the gate, which is right here. And there's the wheelbarrow over there if you can see through the fence. And I just kind of wheel it over here. I open the gate more, stick it in the gate, and then just hand walk it. So that's going to be an even bigger job for the last 4 rows, but we'll get there. Okay, so we're down in the field, and I am going to be hooking up the drip tape so we can test the lines. And so on this end, there is this fitting right here. The drip tape goes into this part, and this screws to hold it tight, and this part screws into the actual piping. So I will get this screwed in. I'm doing this one-handed, so it'll be a little tricky. But then I'm going to put the drip tape, stick it in there as tight as I can get it, and then I'm going to thread this on. And now you can see the drip tape is secure. And the striped side of the drip tape is the side that actually has the emitter holes. And I like to face that up. They were facing down last time. As you can tell, they're very dirty. But we're just going to test these and see if they need to be replaced. Okay, so we are now down here at the other end of the drip tape at the end of my line. And this fitting actually has a little plug on the bottom. And you can take that plug off to flush the line out without having to unconnect it. But then this piece, again, one-handed, it's going to be tricky, is just like the other side where the tubing slips into here, and then I'll tighten this down into place. Okay, so that's what it looks like with all of the rows. So now the challenge is to find the right tubes and kind of get them pulled taut down the row here. Sorry. And then this one, oops, my whole thing is moving from there. And this bunny tail grass that's already growing makes it kind of a pain. But that's kind of how they look when they're underneath the weed mat. And I'm going to go and do that to all of these rows. I'm going to get them hooked back up. Then we're going to turn the water on and test and see if any of the tubes have leaks. And if they do, we will replace those. So we have all of them hooked up, and now we are going to turn the water on and see where the leaks are.
Sure.
Yeah. Second one. It's a brand new line, and now we have to run a new one, but we're going to use this on one of the shorter rows and just cut that portion off. Okay, good morning. It is another day. I just haven't had time to put full days in on this, so it's taking multiple days. The sun is very bright this morning, so you probably can't see much of me, but we are going to take a look around, and I'm going to show you the rows that we replaced, and then we're going to get the weed mat put back on. So I have 7 rows, and in those 7 rows, some of them have 4 drip lines and some of them have 3. So in this one right here, we replaced 1 line. The second row, we actually had to replace 2 lines. Third row, looks like just 1 line. fourth row one line, fifth row one line, sixth row one line, and the seventh row one line. And you can see the space that I have to work in. It's not a perfect square, so unfortunately I have ends that are not all the same length, but I bought some new weed mat that I'm going to use for the walkways here, so that I don't have weeds growing in this section anymore. So we're going to be working on that today. Okay, so I bought all new staples this year. Many years I just take them out, kind of rub any rust that's developed on them off, and then use them again. But since I took the time to just completely redo everything this year, we're going to start with some fresh staples, and I'm just going to get them put down into the weed mat. I can't at this point, all the way down the row here, you see, the way I lay my weed mat is that because the wind comes up the hill, we're on like a slight slope of a hill, I overlap the edges so that the row down here goes on top of this one so that it doesn't blow underneath the weed mat. So I'm just going to kind of tack this right here until I get the next row on, and then I'll worry about this right here. Okay, it's yet another morning and I'm going to get finished. I only have 2 more rows to lay and then the little side pathways to do, but as you can see, the sun is shining brightly, so it's going to get warm out here quickly. I'm just going to put you on a time lapse while I enjoy the sound of the birds and get these last 2 rows done. Okay, so all I can say is woohoo! This literally almost kicked my butt. It was so much work shoveling the compost into the buckets and hauling them over here and running them down the rows one by one. But we got it done. You can see back there in the corner, there's a little bit that's still lifted up. That's because I very dumbly, I guess you would say, planted some Chinese lanterns in there, and they are a rhizomic spreader, which means they spread underground. So I'm working on getting the rest of those pulled out of there so I don't have to worry about those anymore, and then I will get that tacked back down. But if you can see, this row right here I have planted, and this row right here I have planted, and from now on, everything that's going into this field is going to be part of the series of what's growing in the garden this week. So if you would like to know what I have planted so far and keep up with all of the things that are going on as far as planting and then harvesting and bouquet making and all that great stuff, please consider subscribing. We would love to have you part of our family. And thanks for hanging out with me on this journey of getting this field done, and I hope to see you next time.